Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering Trump. Trump purging the CIA with buyout offers, hiring freezes, and layoffs. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. For the first time ever, the CIA is announcing buyouts for its entire workforce as part of Trump's federal downsizing and intelligence restructuring efforts. Employees who accept the buyout will receive 8 months of pay, but may be restricted in getting future work from the government. Hiring freezes are now in place, and some conditional job offers to new recruits may still be rescinded. They did this in a number of other areas in the federal government where they made offers to people. And unfortunately, some people even moved, made plans, got set up near Washington, D.C., and their jobs got taken away because they hadn't started yet. Trump's administration says the CIA has become too focused on analysis rather than aggressive covert operations. The new CIA directive includes increased espionage against China and trade partners, including possible spying on Mexico. President Trump has already designated Mexican drug cartels as terrorist groups, increasing the CIA's role in targeting them. And a lot of people already allege that the CIA may already have something to do with those Mexican drug cartels. I can't say that that's true, but let's see how things go. Critics argue the buyout offer is a purge aimed at removing those who oppose Trump's intelligence policies. Some CIA officials support the change, saying it allows for more direct action against adversaries. As of now, it's still unclear whether other intelligence agencies will implement the same kind of offers. CIA is where John Brennan came from. James Clapper was the old DNI. Both of those guys and several others who were tied up with the CIA have lost their security clearance because Trump has taken it away from them as a result of them endorsing the fake laptop story, saying that the Hunter Biden laptop was somehow Russian disinformation and not real. In addition to losing security clearances, they've also been banned from all government buildings. And Trump is very well aware that the CIA and other intelligence agencies tend to have some kind of an independence from the federal government and do some things on their own initiatives that he may not agree with. So like he's done with other federal agencies, he needs to get these guys under control. The Wall Street Journal was the first to break this story. From the Wall Street Journal, CIA offers buyout to entire workforce as part of Trump makeover. Spy agency's workforce receives buyout-style offer. And all of this is made possible by Elon Musk's control of the IT as well as the finance for the federal government. Musk and the people that work for him actually have control over what's going on in the Treasury right now. Which means regardless of what a court says, regardless of what anyone complains about, or even if Congress complains about it, physically they have control of the Treasury. That's incredibly important. From Reuters, Musk creates new power base in Washington with takeover of U.S. agencies. And if it weren't for Musk, even though Trump is great and he's tough and he has a lot of power as the president, even with the support of Congress, there would have been no way to get control over the federal government. And now, definitely in any time since our lifetimes, the president of the United States, the acting president, elected by the people, actually does have control over most of the federal government. He'll have full control over it as he continues to roll out his plans. The Central Intelligence Agency offered buyouts to its entire workforce in what officials said is a bid to bring the agency in line with President Trump's priorities, including targeting drug cartels. The CIA appeared to be the first intelligence agency to tell its employees that they can quit their jobs and receive about 8 months of pay and benefits as part of Trump's push to downsize the federal government. The offer last month, made to most civilian federal agencies, exempted some categories of federal workers, including those with national security roles. The agency is also freezing the hiring for job seekers already given a conditional offer, an aide to CIA Director John Ratcliffe said. Some are likely to be rescinded if the applicants don't have the right background for the agency's new goals, which also include Trump's trade war and undermining China, according to the aide. Across government agencies, overall interest in the deferred resignation offer appears to be relatively low so far. So far, we have a report as of the first day that we got a report that 1% of the entire workforce has accepted the buyout offer. However, that wasn't the final day that it's being accepted. We have acceptance coming over the next couple of days, and when it's all said and done, they may get the 5 or 6% of the workforce that they were targeting. There's definitely a major pushback against it from the unions and from Democratic senators saying, don't accept the buyout, don't accept the buyout. They want a big government, and Trump wants a smaller, more easy to control government. Many people have questioned about whether or not they're legally able to take another job during the payout period from the federal government if they accept a buyout, or whether they can return to government under a future administration, according to people the Wall Street Journal talked to. Quote, there's no statutory authority that I can see for the president making this offer, according to Senator Tim Kaine, who represents tens of thousands of federal workers and is a Democrat senator, and said no constituents have told them they're taking the deal. That's a little bit hard to believe, but who knows? I'm sure he's telling the truth. Why not? Why would he lie? Doing so presents risk, he said. Quote, the administration immediately knows you don't want to work for me. They'll find some other way to get rid of you. You should not raise your hand. The truth is the federal government really can fire people that work for them. Yes, there are people that have what they call civil service protections. But a civil service protection is a claim if you're wrongfully fired. You can bring that to court. It could take a couple of years for that to get resolved. And maybe you win, maybe you lose. But it doesn't mean that the federal government doesn't have the power to do that. It just means that if you have civil service protection, if you are wrongfully fired, you can make a financial civil claim to recover damages for that. There's a responsibility to give you special treatment. You're not a probationary hire. You're not like a at-will hire. Which is to say, it's not like the Trump administration is looking for literally a million lawsuits. They'll get rid of people in their due time, and they'll do it with the limited liability they can get to the federal government for trying to fix and resize and downsize the federal government. So when you hear people say, oh, it's illegal to fire people with civil service protections, no one goes to jail over firing someone with civil service protections. It just means you get a financial claim if you make the claim in court and you win the court case. Trump administration officials have said the offers for buyouts are also meant to signal to those who oppose Trump's agenda to find work elsewhere. Ratcliffe, the head of the CIA now, told the White House to extend the same buyout package to the CIA, the aide said, believing it would pave the way for a more aggressive spy agency. A CIA spokeswoman said the move was part of an effort to infuse the agency with renewed energy. In his confirmation hearing, Ratcliffe promised to launch more hard-edged spying operations and covert action, naming drug cartels and China as key adversaries. Quote, to the brave CIA officers listening around the world, if all of that sounds like what you signed up for, then buckle up and get ready to make a difference, he told lawmakers last month. If it doesn't, then it's time to find a new line of work. Trump's CIA will have a greater focus on the Western Hemisphere, targeting countries not traditionally considered adversaries of the U.S. For example, the CIA will use espionage to give Trump extra leverage in his trade negotiations, possibly spying on Mexico's government amid the ongoing trade spat, according to the aide. The CIA will also take on a significant role fighting Mexican drug cartels, which President Trump designated as terror groups on his first day in office. The designation of the Mexican drug cartels as terrorist groups is a very serious designation. That makes them a serious threat to the United States and the national security of the United States. Not just like some enemy or inconvenience to the United States. Whether it's ISIS, Al-Qaeda, any other organization that's designated as a terror group, which is usually done through the State Department, not done at the level of the president, any of those terror groups operating either on American soil or even in another country are considered a threat to the United States, and the United States military will act against them. For example, from Zero Hedge, first spy plane, now U.S. Navy's nuclear-powered aircraft carrier spotted off Mexico's coast. For anybody who's in a Mexican drug cartel, now's the time to get out of that Mexican drug cartel. For the decades after its creation, the CIA was focused on America's rivalry with the Soviet Union. After 9/11, the agency transformed much of its workforce into a shadowy paramilitary force that could kill terrorists with drones. In recent years, the CIA has shifted back to focus on countries including China, which has been widely viewed by national security officials as the U.S.'s greatest long-term threat. The Trump administration and the intelligence community clashed at times in his first term, but some CIA officers later said they missed the greater latitude to conduct covert operations against America's adversaries under Trump. It wasn't clear whether other intelligence agencies would follow suit with buyout offers. The Senate Intelligence Panel on Tuesday narrowly advanced Tulsi Gabbard's nomination to be Trump's Director of National Intelligence, a position that oversees the nation's 18 intelligence agencies and bureaus, but she hasn't yet been confirmed by the full Senate. Her job is to collect intelligence from the intelligence agencies and help to assemble it into the presidential daily briefing so that essentially the president knows what's going on. She's kind of a filter between the president and the intelligence agencies. That has been abused in prior years. And that allowed intelligence agencies to kind of do whatever it was they wanted to do as long as they controlled the Director of National Intelligence. As we've already seen throughout the federal government, as important it is that Trump does get his picks through for whoever is in charge of his cabinet and that the Senate confirms all of them, he's going to know what's going on in each of these agencies no matter what. They're not going to get away with not telling him what's going on like his first administration. The firings, the layoffs, the accountability, and the FBI and the DOJ that have already been going on had been going on even without having his people approved by the Senate on top of those organizations. But it's only going to accelerate things for him to be able to have his people in place. And what makes all these changes really possible in the federal government is the control that Trump has over the federal government thanks to Elon Musk and his team bringing people into these actual offices and getting a hold of the computers. Coming from Reuters, Musk creates new power base in Washington with takeover of U.S. agencies. And since we recently found out that Politico has been taking money from the federal government to operate millions of dollars a year, since we're paying for it anyway, let's use the Politico article. It's actually pretty well done. From Politico, they've done their homework. The unexpected power of Musk's digital assault on Washington. Almost overnight, banal seeming federal IT systems have become ideologically driven bulldozers. Elon Musk's campaign to cut Washington's bureaucracy is aiming at a very specific, very sensitive digital power center, the federal IT infrastructure. Musk and his allies have gained access to the Treasury Department's payment systems, and they've commandeered enough control at the Office of Personnel Management to send a mass email offering federal employees early buyouts. Unnamed federal officials told the Washington Post today that they're now concerned about DOGE's access to student loan data. The overall effect has been to turn a once banal-seeming federal IT system into an ideologically driven bulldozer for removing programs deemed by apparently Musk or Trump as either unnecessary or excessively woke. Musk's approach is revealing just how much of the day-to-day operation of government has come to depend on technological systems that can, in theory, be turned on and off with the flick of a switch. He's also exploring the limits of how much power a lone official can wield if he has the White House approval to take them over. Quote, they've done their homework, and Lewis, former director of Technology Transformation Services under General Services Administration, told Politico. Quote, going where the majority of the volume of government transaction data is seems very strategic. On the surface, Musk's goals track with the generations of previous good government reformers who have long imagined revamping the cumbersome federal hiring and procurement processes that have built up over years and decades. It's also within DOGE's mission. In his order establishing the department, officially with a mere renaming of the existing U.S. Digital Service, Trump directed it to, quote, implement the president's DOGE agenda by modernizing federal technology and software to maximize governmental efficiency and productivity. Trump also issued a separate executive order calling on DOGE, OPM, and the Office of Management and Budget to integrate modern technology with DOGE, providing advice on specific best practices for the human resources function in each agency. In practice, however, many governance experts have watched the launch of DOGE with alarm bordering on horror. As DOGE has advertised on Musk's platform X, the office is using its access to federal data to mark for death diversity, equity, and inclusion-related programs specifically, amounting to an ideological program far from the goals of productivity and efficiency. Except that, of course, spending money on diversity, equity, and inclusion has a complete opposite effect of good productivity and efficiency, as it serves no purpose, creates friction, and is just a colossal waste of money. There are also deep cybersecurity concerns about how his teams are operating. A lawsuit alleges that a Musk ally installed a private email server at OPM in order to send direct mass emails to civil servants. And when I first started understanding how this story was developing last week, I was surprised to see the federal government employees were trying to prevent Musk and his team from being able to send an email to all employees. Their argument was, well, that should really just come from each individual department, so that perhaps a supervisor who would communicate with the employees under that supervisor would refuse to send the email, and then people wouldn't be communicated with. But how ridiculous is it that the President of the United States can't send an email to the employees of the federal government unless he has the permission of various levels of supervisors? That's how messed up the federal government has been, and that's why Elon Musk is taking it apart piece by piece. DOGE spokesperson Katie Miller has denied the allegations about the server, pointing to an X post where she said, quote, "There's nothing illegal and no server, just more made-up tall tales from uninformed career bureaucrats who probably telework." Based on her grasp of how the government's underlying technology works, Lewis says that by setting up DOGE within USDS and installing close allies like Thomas Shedd in crucial tech positions, Shedd now holds her former job as director of TTS. Musk is setting himself up to expand his digital powers further through the technical machinery of the bureaucracy, rather than through higher profile and more accountable top-level appointments. Lewis suggests that if DOGE insulates itself within the General Services Administration, which houses TTS, it could have access to the GSA's tech talent and the multi-billion-dollar acquisition services fund, a pot of money earned by contract acquisition fees that it alone controls and can be used for further hiring and procurement. It could also, if it wanted to, find allies with the technical know-how to further DOGE's mission. Quote, "They found the two organizations, USDS and TTS, in the federal government where a lot of formerly private sector tech talent lives." 404 Media reported this afternoon on a meeting between Shedd and TTS employees where he offered praise and asked their help in implementing AI throughout the government. Those reforms aside, the manner in which DOGE is going directly into the pipes, as it were, of the federal government seems possibly off mission to many experts, rousing already high suspicions, especially if they have the power to get into the actual code, as Wired reported in one story. Quote, "There's no good reason they should be able to directly edit code and stop or change payments, and to ignore the most basic controls around them," according to Robert Gordon, a deputy assistant to former President Joe Biden and assistant secretary for financial resources. However, of course, under the authority of the President of the United States, who has the highest authority in the executive branch, he wants Musk to be able to turn on and turn off payments, because if something is going through that is fraudulent or is inappropriate, he wants to be able to tell Musk, don't send that payment. And Musk will be able to do that, and it seems like Musk has already done that. It's a level of power and control over the federal government that we've really never seen before. And when you elect someone to be president, that's what you want them to be able to do, to make changes regardless of what the federal bureaucrats say. Gordon echoed comments from other technocratic government reformers who've said that while the federal bureaucracy is badly in need of reform, DOGE's blunt force approach could be counterproductive and could even backfire if lawsuits over its constitutionality force a rollback of its changes. Musk and DOGE's fusion of political decision-making with literal admin privileges is, in a way, the purest distillation of the Silicon Valley ethos that defines Trump 2.0. Quote, "We've always said that we could run the government more efficiently than the government, and now we're going to do it. Existing regulations or constitutional authorities be damned." Gordon expressed bafflement that anyone involved in governance and administration would even need direct access to sensitive IT systems. Gordon is well aware of what's been going on inside the government, it sounds like. We're going to find out what Gordon knows, and probably even more than that, as Musk continues on his quest. Quote, "Normally, political appointees like me want to stay 100 miles away from these processes," Gordon said. "I can imagine wanting access in some circumstances to see them yourself. But the idea of monkeying with the actual payments and having the authority to change them is mind-blowing. It's a key thing that normal politicals stay the hell away from." The key difference, of course, being that Musk and his gang of 20-something wonderkins are anything but normal politicals. And while legal challenges loom on the horizon, for now, politics have seemed to shift to the level of the Sysadmin, the system administrator. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you. And if you want to support the channel and help me make even more videos, become a paid member of the channel today.